Is Vampirism more powerful in combination with Tiny Titans? Are Z-Shadows running around with their own hurricane? And what exactly makes Qiyana one-shot itemized targets? Welcome to the 6th episode of the TFT Mythbuster series for set 10. Let's get started. For our first myth, let's take a look at the augment Vampirism. It always gives your entire team flat HP, and then it also checks the amount of missing HP of your little legend and grants more HP and Omnivamp based on the missing value. The myth states, bonus HP from Tiny Titans works with Vampirism. Tiny Titans is a silver augment that increases the maximum player health by 30. Since you have more HP to lose, it makes sense that an augment like Vampirism should have increased value. But do they really synergize? Here we have an Echo with 880 HP once he is removed from the KDA hex. Vampirism currently grants 20 flat HP and another 2 health for every 5 missing player health. Since we have 105 HP at the moment, this should grant an additional 10 HP. His base HP is 850, and since we have 30 more, it means that both of these augments do in fact work off each other. This myth is confirmed. The second myth involves our good old friend Zed. We already established that he is quite amazing against Karthus, but does he have any other tricks up his sleeve? The myth states, Z-Shadows can proc Hurricane. The stats for Hurricane Z were surprisingly good, and some players questioned whether or not his shadows were making use of this item as well. It's a bit annoying to test because Hurricane has a somewhat small visual that is hard to track, and there is no practice mode that would allow me to showcase this in an isolated setup. But the following fight should still make it clear. We have a Zed with a double Hurricane and an Edge of Night. If any of the shadows have their own Hurricane, or if any of their attacks are responsible for a Hurricane Bolt, then the myth would be confirmed. In this fight, Zed is trying his best to stay alive. We can see how one bolt flies to the enemy Vex, and while he is feared, there are no other bolts flying across the map. Only when the original Zed continues with auto attacks can we see the bolts flying again. I think it's safe to say there is no interaction here. This myth is busted. For the final myth, let's talk about Qiyana. There are a lot of rumors flying around regarding her ability, but not all of them turn out to be true. The myth states, Qiyana can deal bonus damage against itemized units. So in case you don't know, Qiyana's ability is split into 2 parts. If her target has an item, she will deal physical damage, knock them back 1 hex, and create a temporary item for one of her allies. If her target has no item, she knocks the unit to the edge of the board and also deals a high amount of bonus true damage, which is often enough for a one-shot. To get to the bottom of this myth, I want to showcase 3 different fights. In the first fight, we have a Qiyana against an enemy Riven with a Jazz emblem. You can see how Riven gets yeeted to the other side of the map, barely surviving the burst. From Qiyana's perspective, an emblem apparently doesn't count as an item. In the next fight, we can see how Qiyana is fighting against a Yone with blacksmith gloves. Similar to emblems, Qiyana does not recognize any Ornn artifacts as items either, and will use the second part of her ability. This also means that in her current state, she is the best possible counter against the augment What the Forge, because the opponent can't even access normal items anymore. Now I could show you another fight where it's the same with radiant items or ghost armies, but I feel like the following is more interesting. There is another way to trigger Qiyana's bonus damage, and it's based around your own items. In a normal setup, Qiyana wants to distribute items to her allies, but what happens if nobody has space? Maybe most of your units were taken out during the fight, or maybe you decided to stack a bunch of Thieves' Gloves. In this scenario, Qiyana will deal her bonus damage with every single cast. From her point of view, she has to resort to the second part of her ability because there is no viable target anymore to distribute an item to. This definitely sounds super broken, especially if you could abuse it to print permanent components, but fortunately this does not work. Only the initial ability with the physical damage can create components. If you block your item slots, you will always benefit from the bonus damage, but it's not possible to create any components anymore. Anyways, at this point, I think it's more than clear that Qiyana can easily deal bonus damage even to itemized units. This myth is confirmed. 3 more myths down and many more to go. I'm always looking for more interesting mechanics to test, so if there is something you were always curious about, let me know in the comments. I hope you learned something, and see you next time.